Welcome, everybody. I'm Love Coach Scott Katamas, and it is Saturday Night Alive for the Global Peace Tribe. And welcome, everyone. It's going to be a really cool show. It's all about high technology being used for good. No stories about AI going crazy and robots taking over the world in a negative way, but really learning and meeting some of the leaders in the field who are dedicated to, just as we know we need to raise our consciousness in so many different ways, using technology for the raising of consciousness. So it's going to be a really, really special show. Glad to see we've already got about 60 of our friends, and some of you already know what to do to give us your name and where you're from. And right off the bat, I see some of my favorite regulars: John, Eleanor, Lynn, Leaf, Marlene. I always feel good when okay, you guys are here. We're good. It's going to be a great show. For those of you that are new, please give us your name, give us your geographic location, and for extra credit, maybe tell us a little bit about what you're excited about with technology. What about technology does excite you? Because obviously there's a lot of wonderful things. As you all know, that are regulars, we bring in collaborators. And tonight we're working for the first time. This is our 85th show, approximately 85th, 86th, something like that. And we have a wonderful collaborator we've been working with. I've known her for a long, long time. And of course, she's a good friend of Deborah's. This is Ruby Ye. And Ruby is who has really helped put this show together. She has brought in 5 of her friends that are all really extraordinary human beings. They all happen to be men, but Ruby, thank you for putting this show together. And you are muted, by the way, so please unmute. There you go.
Well, I am so delighted to be here because, you know, I have been a party and a Saturday Night Alive participant. So it's wonderful to be able to say hello to all of you who are here for the early show. Welcome.
And, you know, may that be an inspiration for some of you watching. If you're like, hey, I love this show, and you're interested in coming on as a collaborator, let us know. That's how we met Ruby, and she came in. Jerry Anderson, the wild abbot of Mystic Monastery, who you see all the time, he came in as a fan of the show, and we've co-created with him. So we love co-creating with people. And so we're always looking for sponsors and collaborators. So definitely reach out to Deborah or myself. So as most of you know, we have an early Zoom room show where we have a kind of a drop-in chat. And Ruby, who's our guest? Tell us who our lucky guest is for tonight's early Zoom room show.
Well, our pre-show is one of my favorite technologists and business person in the whole world, and that's Dan Mapes. So when you hear Dan's story about how he is transforming technology for good on a really grand scale during his session when we start, you are just going to be amazed. But, you know, for this pre-show, let's chat a little bit about what's really been present now. You know, like you've all heard about Metaverse, right? Because now Facebook has gotten into Metaverse. And so I'd really like to just invite Dan to talk about, maybe for some of you to ask him questions about what is Metaverse, all right? And the other thing that Dan is going to be talking during his talk later on is how technology is really going to be bringing us into the golden age. Now, for many of you, you may think, well, how is that possible, right? Within 10 years. So Dan, if you'd like to just start about that, you know, what you see as the vision happening and what Metaverses and what role that's going to be playing.
Sure. Thanks, Ruby. Thanks, Scott. Really wonderful to be here tonight. Yeah, obviously a big news when a company that's worth $1 trillion like Facebook changes their name to Meta and says we're going to spend $10 billion on metaverses. And then Microsoft says we're building a metaverse. Then Disney says we're building a metaverse. And so suddenly there's something new happening in the world. But really, it's a natural evolution of the current World Wide Web. The current World Wide Web really goes back to its roots in 1970 with 4 computers that were linked together into something called the internet for the first time. And what they discovered in that process was when you create a network with no central computer, then the thing can grow exponentially really fast because there's no friction point. So we went from 4 computers in 1970. We're at 40 billion computers today. It's remarkable. And it's transformed the world, of course. First with email, and then 25 years later, we had the World Wide Web. And so first we created an internet of machines. That's the IP layer where all the machines can talk to each other. And that allowed email. And then Tim Berners-Lee came along in the early 90s and said, well, why don't we do the same thing? Why don't we give every document an address? And we'll create a protocol to allow them to be linked up, and you can search them and visit them with a browser, and that'll be the World Wide Web. And we went from 8 or 10 web pages in 1993 or 4, and we're at 8 or 10 billion web pages today. So you can kind of see what happens when human beings get access to a network. It really explodes. And so now we're at the dawn of a new internet. The first internet was the internet of machines connecting and communicating with each other. The next was 2-dimensional documents, web pages, and that created Facebook and Amazon and all the other web pages we have. But of course, we don't live in pages. We don't walk around in pages. We walk around in spaces. And so we have 25 years of the 2D World Wide Web, and we have 25 years of 3D computer gaming. Well, gee, we've got the bandwidth now to be able to have a 3D web. And so what could we do with a 3D web? Well, that's really what a metaverse is. So you enter a metaverse and you can build a metaverse for commerce. You can build a metaverse like a cool nightclub, great hangout. You could build a metaverse as an entire city or world, like Second Life was really about 10 years ago. You could build a university metaverse. I mean, so all of these metaverses now built by Disney and Facebook and you and me, because they're the new websites of the future, are all going to be linked up together. Well, obviously, just like you need a protocol to link all the web pages together, otherwise you just have a standalone web page. And we'd have to download this website, then go look for another website and download it. But when we have a web, we can just surf between them. So we needed a protocol for the metaverse. And so, there's we set up a company called an organization called the Spatial Web Foundation.org. And then we built a spatial web protocol to allow anybody building any of these metaverses to mount them onto the spatial web, and then they'll be able to be browsed and communicated just like we do with the World Wide Web. And that's becoming an IEEE standard. So we let go of control of that. It becomes owned by all of you. Everybody owns that standard, just like we do with HTTP. And then we build tools over here to make it easy to build these 3-dimensional worlds, just like WordPress makes it easy to build web pages. And so now you've got the foundations of a whole new layer of World Wide Web, a 3-dimensional World Wide Web that you can go into, and you've got these beautiful worlds that you can create, Facebook can create, everybody can create. And there'll be many, many new companies and new kinds of metaverses built by all kinds of people all over the world, because the internet is everywhere. And the tools are inexpensive or free. And so we're going to see an explosion of really extraordinary creativity. And we've already seen it in movies like Ready Player One and others, but now we're going to see it for real.
So Dan, the thing is that, you just kind of gave us a picture from a practical level. And I would love to welcome questions from the audience also, since this is the pre-show, right? So what can you see someone from our audience who is maybe a spiritual seeker, is a meditator, and they may be their own entrepreneur? What do you see as the possibility for them, let's say, within the next 6 months, within the next year, in terms of them being able to adopt some of these new technologies coming out?
Well, I mean, just take myself and yourself, for example. We're educated people, and we've migrated, we've chosen to dedicate our lives to spiritual practices. Well, why did we do that? I mean, just because it's cool? No, because wow, it's remarkable. It's better than anything. And so, like meditation alone, I mean, it's free, and it does more to bring on bliss consciousness, Satchitananda, than any other thing you can do. And yet very few people do it. And so Maharishi really created a nice big movement, and other Zen and other different meditation practices. And a lot of these things have come from the East, from China, from Japan, from India, from the Middle East with the Sufis. And I think, we've all partaken from them, and even our Western traditions of mystical Islam, mystical Christianity, mystical Judaism, Kabbalah, all these things, they're all just remarkable doorways into higher consciousness that we all individually are choosing to explore. And that's what this beautiful show celebrates. And so obviously the planet could use more of that. And running around and giving speeches physically is really not the way to go. So we're going to obviously create spiritual metaverses, of course, and people all over the world will engage them and find the ones that interest them. And there'll be, every tradition will be represented, and I think we're going to see really a spiritual renaissance out of it. I mean, that's really what's about to happen. It isn't that we're going to sell more stuff, and we'll probably do that too, but what's really going to be ultimate is the ultimate jewel, Om Mani Padme Hum, and the jewel in the center of the lotus. The ultimate jewel is Satchitananda, different levels of enlightenment. And as people discover that, we can form community online, we can even meet offline, we can go to special gatherings, but the online gives us access to traditions, teachings. I just finished a couple of Kabbalah courses during COVID, and they were remarkable. They were online, they were awesome. And so, wow, we're going to flood the planet with every great tradition in immersive environments. We can go to temples. We can have access to live teachers, live humans like Scott and Deborah are doing here, or to even virtual reality teachers that you can ask them questions about all the different subtleties of Buddhism or something. And so I think we're going to see an extraordinary spiritual renaissance. And that is really what a renaissance is all about. The last renaissance, we know, was about 500 years ago. And it was every domain. I mean, it was, physical and, with the printing press and all the other kinds of things that were happening. But I think we're going to see the same thing here. We're going to see every part of our whole culture go through a renaissance, but we're also the highest and most beautiful thing is the highest and most beautiful thing in any human being's life, which is access to enlightenment. And, there's that is the real promise of what's about to happen.
Yeah, so I think this is something I really want to emphasize, everyone, because, there's this perspective of technology with us losing our privacy and, being dominated, like our data being taken advantage of and all that. The wonderful thing is a lot of this technology emerging is actually going to put a stop to that, which most people are not even aware of. And this is part of what this spatial web technology that Dan has created. So, he's talking about the possibility of transformation through these tools that most of us can't even imagine yet. Because just think about, everybody, what was world like 20 years ago before the internet? We were all pushing paper, right? That was the world. And now, like, this 20 years, our whole life is transformed. It's going to be accelerating faster. But there's been a lot of damages also, So, Dan, could you speak about how some of this new technology is actually going to be addressing some of those outcomes of technology that has not been beneficial for humanity?
And Ruby, if I could jump in also, and this is kind of an add-on to that, what you're suggesting or asking him about. This is from Dr. Future. We're blessed to have Dr. Future.
Great.
And Dr. Future is asking, what are the new ways that we can connect our consciousness to the spatial web? So let's get that in there as well, Dan.
Thank you so much, because I'm not looking at the chat. So thank you for doing that for us, Scott.
Yeah, no, so, you know, these things kind of have been surprising us. When they put the first 4 computers together of the internet in 1970, they had no idea. In a million years, there would be 40 billion computers plugged into the internet. It would be all over the world, and we would have things like smartphones. That was not in their awareness at all. They were just trying to make a more resilient network, and they discovered decentralization in the process by accident. By having no central computer, we have a decentralized network, and so decentralization itself is a concept almost like mass production was during the industrial age. So we're leaving the industrial age behind, and we're now stepping into a new era, which is a decentralized community of communities all over the world. And that's going to you know, really advance our understandings of how to creatively live together and make these different kinds of choices we're making. And so at each step, we do these things, and we don't know what the outcome fully is going to be. So when Tim did the protocols for the World Wide Web, he didn't put in an identity layer. So we have to log in everywhere. And when we log in, then we can be surveilled. And so we now, as we're building the spatial web protocols, had the luxury of watching how did humanity work with the World Wide Web for 25 years. Overall, a lot of positives, but 3 big negatives. One, every database is hacked. You know, everything's hacked. Hackers can get in and break anything. I mean, even the most secure, you know, military computers are hacked. You know, everything you do is tracked and sold. You know, it's called surveillance capitalism. And 3, you can't tell what's real and what's fake. I mean, is that really a Nigerian prince? I don't know. Anyway, so knowing that those are the big 3 problems before we put everything on the internet, all the cities and airports and everything, which is what's about to happen over this next 25 years, we better cure those things first, right? And so, blockchains help. They give us an edge against the hackers. I mean, people are trying to hack the Bitcoin blockchain right now while we're sitting here having this conversation. There's $1 trillion worth of Bitcoins on there. No success. 13 years hacking every day on it. No success. Bitcoin's just rolling right along. So that's one level. That'll help us with hacking. We have put in something called self-sovereign identity into the new web. And that means that you don't log in anywhere. You know, you're a sovereign person on the internet, and you own your data. And so we're not being harvested, our data is not being harvested by other companies and then resold to make billions of dollars. We own our data. We can even sell our data through data exchanges. We can strip our name off of it. Most of the companies don't really want to know your name. They want to know that you just sold 20 blue Teslas in LA and you know, that kind of thing. So they can get their data. And even while you're driving your Tesla, you might sell the stream of information. Tesla might want to buy that from you. Now you own the data, you're actually getting paid. So imagine being able to use these metaverses and you're actually getting paid to do that. So that will make a big difference in a lot of people's lives, particularly in less developed countries and things. So we were able to attack those big 3 things. And the other thing is faking. And so again, artificial intelligence in the system can kind of identify, wait, that's you know, almost give you a validation score on things when you're looking at it. This is probably the real deal. Is coming out of Cornell University or Oxford University. Is some research. Cool, 90% validation. This is kind of what? This is kind of sketchy, or has been criticized or critiqued. And so you can actually do almost Yelp scores on what's going on in the environment around us. So this is stuff that just naturally comes with the greater use of AI and an intelligent network that honors your privacy and honors our privacy and says, hey, this is a decentralized model. We all own this together. This is our global commons, just like the Earth itself. And some of the early applications of the spatial web are in climate. We're doing advanced climate accounting systems to more accurately measure the carbon footprint. A lot of our team was at COP26. We're working on biodiversity. And we're working on other really cool things that will have and even when a company uses this technology, they can get more done with less energy being used. So they become more efficient. And so over time, we're actually helping in a way this new web can, and then we can tokenize the climate game. So we can actually reward people for doing things that are positive, or planting trees, or biodiversity things. People that own large land tracts can be rewarded for keeping them in nature and not developing them. And so I think we're going to see a lot of very interesting empowerment out of this next level of the internet. Whereas the last level, we were kind of a little bit disempowered. There were huge companies and they're kind of just gathering data and making a ton of money, but we're enjoying it, we're communicating, but in this next web, we're actually co-owners of the web, all of us.
I love that this next web, we're co-owning it. So this is something I would like to invite our audience to remember. And that this is one of the reasons for the show, because I want to make sure that, you know, none of us get left behind with all these new developments. So Dan, somebody asked a really good question, and I had asked about this earlier on. 10 years from now, the emergence of the golden age that you talk about, you know, the Renaissance and the golden age. Can you just give us just a quick, small snapshot view of what that might look like?
I think it's always good to look back in history. I mean, if you took anybody from the Stone Age from 10,000 years ago and brought them to currently, they'd go, "You're already living in the golden age. What are you talking about? What's an airplane? What? You guys are flying in the sky?" You know, we brought anybody back from the agricultural age from 1400 and brought them there. You guys are living in the golden age already. What are you talking about? But we know we can do it better. And so it's all relative. So already we're living in the golden age right now. And we have access to the greatest spiritual teachings in history available. I mean, I've actually met the Dalai Lama. I mean, God, even Tibetans didn't meet the Dalai Lama 100 years ago. And so I think we're so lucky. I mean, just the wealth of the spiritual teachings we have available to us alone is priceless, right? I mean, gosh, I went to school at Berkeley, and you know, gosh, we had Tibetans and you know, Chinese Taoist teachers and Zen masters and all kinds of things available. And now that's spreading. Yoga's all over the world, and you know, it's just a remarkable moment. So I would say the world is pregnant and ready to give birth to a next big thing, right? And so it will be to us a golden age. It'll be like it will be to us as we are to 1400 medieval times. That's what's about to happen. And there's some actual very detailed economic reasons for that. And that is during the industrial age, we were focused on making things out of atoms. That means digging things out of the ground, whether it's oil or iron ore or whatever, making cars and gasoline. And they became some of the largest industries in the world. And so there's a zero-sum game there. There's only so much oil available, only so much iron ore, so big armies control all that, blah, 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 blah. But in the digital age, which we're stepping into now, the most valuable products might be education, different kinds of digital health, other kinds of things like that, and that we'll be buying. And guess what? They're made out of photons and electrons, not things out of the ground. So they're made out of bits and pure energy and light from sunlight. And so, oh, wow, we have infinite raw materials, so no fighting over. I mean, I've got a trillion photons. Well, you can have a trillion too. They're coming in every day from the sun. No limits, right? So now we have an unlimited supply of raw materials. And human creativity is unlimited. We can continue to a Stone Age person, we're like aliens. I mean, we have no problem putting robots on Mars. What? Who are you people? You know. So we're going to continue to evolve, right? But we will be the people we will be in 2100 will look back at us and go like, oh my God, we were so dumb in those days. My God, we were destroying the planet. We had armies. We were burning oil. What? We were insane. Well, that's gone. We're over that. We're over that. Younger generation especially will go like, I don't give a damn. We're not doing that anymore. And they're going to vote and they're going to make changes. And so what we're trying to do is just provide enabling technologies to allow that vision to really manifest more effectively. You see what I mean? Because clearly we want a golden age. And so when you start making things out of bits, the cost per item drops so low that you can almost give everything away. I mean, you get it better than a Harvard level or Oxford level education for free for everybody on the planet, and not just for 4 years, lifelong. You know, wow, that's going to change the world. That's going to change the world. And so when the cost of these things is dropping, even if your income stays the same, you feel wealthier. You've got access. Everybody gets to go to Harvard. What? No, it's $400,000 or $500 million. I don't know, $500,000 to go to Harvard. Well, no. Everything's going to have better than Harvard in 5 years or 10 years. And what's that going to do to the world? Well, change it beautifully and dramatically. And the courses aren't by a corporate, by a university. They're by you. They're apps and things that people are taking. So I think we're on the dawn of golden age, and average income for a person relative to today will probably be $250,000 a year rather than $40,000 a year, or $10,000 a year, or $3,000 a year in some of the lesser developed countries. You know.
Dan, I am so loving your enthusiasm, and we've already got about 115 people in the Zoom room, and they're all raving about you in wonderful ways. So again, Ruby, thank you for inviting Dan. We've got about 2 minutes left, and then I've got to get us ready to go for Facebook. But already there's so many questions coming in. So Dan, would you be willing to stick around and do questions and answers? Maybe have Dr. Future and Mrs. Future join us if they're ready for the after show, because there's already a lot of questions.
Only if Dr. Future and Mrs. Future are joining, then I'll join. We're all joined at the hip anyway. I can't go. Wherever I go, they're there. I don't know how they do it. They're always there, documenting everything and kibitzing.
I just want to mention that Dan is actually on the East Coast at a conference. Okay, so I just want to take that into consideration. He's at a major conference right now, so I'll check in with Dan later.
Yeah, we are actually at a massive party, and we wouldn't know it from where we are. But we're going to take our iPad out into the party at some point, and we'll take Dan with us to be here.
Great guys.
Meet some of the old friends.
Sure. Either way, Ruby, thank you for being protective of your guest. I do respect that. So we'll text each other and see the possibility. All right, I got to get us ready to go live on Facebook, but thank you, Dan, for giving us such a upbeat, optimistic, visionary view of where we're going. And I so appreciate that. I appreciate, I saw somewhere that the number of positive future visions that we get in the media versus negative, zombie apocalypse, it's something like 94%.
You're right. You're absolutely correct, and they're wrong, of course. In fact, I was asked recently by the head of one of the big consulting firms, "How come you're so positive?" I said, "Because we're coding it. We're not just spicing
it. Creating it.
We're actually helping to bring it to life. So we're not gonna take no for an answer. You know what I mean? Period."
Beautiful. All right, I've got to get us ready for Facebook and going live on 6. Thank you so much, Dan. Ruby, we'll see you in a moment. Dr. and Mrs. Future, we'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
And, for all of our people coming into our Zoom room, still continue to give us your name, your email address, not email address, your names and geographic locations. All right, I'm hyped up now. Dan got me. He's better than coffee, all right? Pretty amazing. Thank you so much. All right, let's get ready to go live on Facebook, shall we?